I'll talk a little about UFOs later, because they're actually in this next Buvar Loka. They're at home there, and they have the technology to shift down to our level and to see us, because they're starting to check up on us, because we're about to rejoin them. Because we were there before in the higher ages, and now we're kind of like a off-limits planet, you know. And later on, you know, we'll be back, you know, with all of them. Well, I feel like Isaac Newton, you know, on the shoulders of giants, of all the people who've spoken before me today. I thank you all, because you've prepared a lot that I thought I had to cover. You know, you've kind of convinced and prepared everybody already, so I'm really in good shape here. One of the things I wanted to do is speak a little about what's happening right now. And you know, we're talking about the Yugas, the Chakras, and the 7 spheres of creation. And the 7 spheres of creation, there's different vibrational level in the universe. And Walter, you know, had this talk, as above, so below. Well, that's the same thing I'm talking about. The chakras within us correspond to the 7 spheres of creation outside of us, which only makes sense. And so in Sanskrit, we call them the locas. And since English and Sanskrit are both Indo-European languages, locas is the same as the word location in English. It's a place, you know. And so in this case, it's a sphere vibration that we're in, and now we're entering other spheres of creation. And I'm going to make that very clear. And we're going to talk about the last upward shift. We don't have time for the last downward transition. I'm sorry about that. I had too much material. But the last upward shift is pretty important, and to understand where we're at right now and this coming shift into the higher age. And then we'll talk a little about past life regression, life between life regression, and then where are we going in the higher ages, especially what to me is important in the golden age, what happens after. And then, so transcending the yugas, the higher locas, and also talk a little about the 4th kriya. And so I started in all this back in 1964. I started in SRF, so it's 60 years now, which seems amazing. And toward the end of the 60s, I started to really get into the Holy Science by Swami Shri Yukteswar and started reading. And I would meet with Brother Dharmananda, one of the monks at Self-Realization Fellowship, who really had a deep insight. And he knew things about the yugas that were not in any books. So I learned a lot from him. So we already kind of got all the introduction, thank you to Joseph Selby and Walter Cruttenden. But I just want to mention just really briefly, we come from a Judeo-Christian tradition here in the West, and I think it's really amazing that we actually see things about the yugas in the Old Testament. You know, I didn't expect that. Walter is the one who first made me aware of it, actually from the book of Job, which is the oldest part of the Old Testament, where God tells Job, "Canst thou bind the sweet influences of the Pleiades?" Whoa, the Bible knows about the Pleiades and the good influences. Can you hold on to the good influence of the golden age? No, I am God. I've set up this, you know, cycle that mankind goes through in a search, you know, for God. And what's even more, then I found the prophet Amos said, "Seek him that maketh the 7 stars and turneth the shadow of death into the morning." again, talk about the Dark Age and the higher ages coming, and all coming from the Pleiades. You know, it kind of makes you realize, you know, it's not just all these other ancient civilizations talking about the Pleiades and called Kritika in Sanskrit, and they all knew about it. But then Yogananda in The Wine of the Mystic, it's about the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, his commentaries, said the Pleiades contain Alcyone, the star that the ancients considered to be the central pivot of the universe. And I think, of course, we have the center of the galaxy. There's also larger cycles, but the cycle that makes sense to us historically is the smaller cycle. And this is kind of like like in a tornado, you have smaller vortices which actually have most of the power. So in the same thing in our galaxy, there are certain vortices, and the one vortex that affects us is the Pleiades, the Alcyone, that sends out this higher consciousness energy that we come closer to and further away in the ages. And I also want to point out that some people think, well, you know, we can go directly from the Dark Age to the Golden Age. No, we really can't, because we're on an elliptical cycle around our binary, and as we get closer and further away, it's an elliptical orbit. It takes time. You go from one stage to the next. So, talk about Sri Yukteswar. I just want to make sure you understand that the Yugas don't explain the actual shift that's coming right now. It's only we know that we're entering a higher age. But in the past, we've always focused on the foreword in the Holy Science, and we kind of ignored the rest of the book, because the rest of this book is kind of like this, and it's not easy. You know, and it's taken me, I don't know, since the 60s. I mean, it wasn't even since recently that I got into the locas, which he talks about, and which are really, the yugas are a subset of the locas, of these spheres of existence. And so now finally, I think it's time, especially in this audience, being here at Ananda with all these wonderful devotees, you know, that it's time to kind of get into this. And to understand a little bit more about these 7 spheres of existence corresponding to the 7 chakras in the spine, you notice that the chakras, in between the chakras, there's really nothing going on. It's not a gradual change. Just like in, why do we have four yugas, four like Iron Age, Bronze Age, Silver Age, Golden Age? Why isn't it just a gradual transition and a gradual transition back down? Well, that's because of the locas, actually, the 7 spheres of creation. And the yugas are just the bottom 4 levels of vibration that we're dealing with. And we're in that bottom level, about to shift into the next one. And so let's look a little bit at the rest here. So what I like to make you understand, it's like a radio station. You're tuned into a certain radio station, and like, remember the old radios, and you turn the dial. And so what's happening is, now that we've gone from the Dark Age into the next age, we're not, well, we think we're there, but we really haven't shifted yet, because we're getting out of tune of the Dark Age. That radio station, that music, like horrible music, heavy metal music or whatever, you know, we're coming out of it, and now we're getting static. And we're also getting a little bit, now that we're getting close to the next radio station we're going from Bhuloka to Bhuvarloka, the next level of vibration. And as we're starting to get closer to it, you know, you start hearing a little bit of it, of the higher technology, higher moral standards, higher consciousness, but we're still getting all the stuff from that lower music, and we're in a mess. It's like all this static, all this stuff intermingling, And we're going through a hard time right now, right? And so that kind of makes sense, right? And so while we're in this static, we're waiting to, as soon as the shift takes place into the new radio station, into this new beautiful music that's coming, once it happens and we're tuned into that new radio station, all of a sudden, all that static is completely gone. All the bad influences of the dark age, all those vibrations are completely gone. We're in a new age. And nothing can stop that. These vibrations, this change of current, things too powerful. But as I said, it's, you don't have anything in between. You don't have like a gradual transition. It's also like when you look at the atom with the electron shells, the orbitals, you don't have an electron going just anywhere. It only can exist in the orbitals and nothing in between. Same with the chakras. In the spine, you don't have an in-between area. You just have the 7 chakras. And in the universe, you have the 7 levels of creation. So let's look at Sri Yukteswara, the Holy Science. He said, God created man in his own image. So is the body of man like unto the image of this universe. As above, so below. Obviously, the 7 chakras and the 7 spheres of creation. And so he says, the lowest sphere is Bhuloka. That's the one that we're about kind of trying to leave. The sphere of gross material creation, which is always visible to everyone. This is where man is in Kali Yuga, in the dark age. Now he says, and this is really important, entering Bhuvarloka, this next level of vibration, man becomes Dvija, or twice born. Jesus also talks about being born again, right? And so like entering Bhuvarloka, man becomes twice born. He comprehends the second portion of material creation, that of finer forces. This state of mind is prevalent in Dvapara Yuga. So you realize he actually tells you Dvapara Yuga is when you enter Bhuvarloka. And not only that, but he says man comprehends the second portion of material creation. That is, we are still in the physical universe, but we're in a higher vibrational level of it, not in the gross material one. And that's important to realize. So this is where we see the direct connection between the lokas and, the yugas explain the states of consciousness in these different lokas. So, and when the general state of human beings is naturally in that yuga, that's when the shift happens to that level. And we haven't had that happen yet. We're about to, in the next decades or so, or even tomorrow, who knows, but it hasn't quite happened yet, and we're still in that static. That's why we're having so much trouble in the world. And so here we have again the 7 levels of creation. So, and I said before, first time I kind of got the hang of this was when I remembered Sri Yukteswara talking about the higher and lower astral. And I thought, why is there a higher and lower? And then he talks about the gross material world and the finer material world. Then I kind of put things together and realized what he's talking about, the locas. And so here, I'm not sure how this, there it goes. Okay, so we have the 7 spheres, the 7 locas, 7 spheres of vibration, and the 7 spinal chakras corresponding to each other. And then you have the 4 yugas. And you notice the 4 yugas are this bottom area. And so you can see that Satya Yuga, the golden age, isn't really the ultimate yet. And we'll get into that more toward the end. But just so you can see the way it all kind of works out. And then now what's really important to understand, why are we in this critical time that where the Mayans say the calendar is ending, 2012, and we know more now where it's not really 2012, it's really like a 80-year period between 1960 and 2040. Why is this so important? And actually, I had a mistake here. This is actually about 18,000 years ago. So why is this moment right where we are right now in entering Dvapara Yuga, where we're about to shift upward into what's called Bhuvarloka, into this next vibrational sphere? Why is this so critical that the Mayan calendar is ending? And we're going to talk about Gobekli Tepe next. So what happened? So imagine, if you go back 12,000 years up here, there's the last golden age. Gobekli Tepe is somewhere in this area. We go further back to the previous ascending Yuga. And when we went from the Silver Age here into Satya Yuga, that's the last time we shifted upwards into a higher loka, into a higher sphere of vibration. That was like some 18,000 years ago. And then we went down a loka, another loka down, another one down, and now we entered here, somewhere here, we entered the Bhuloka, the lowest vibrational sphere. And even when we shifted to the upward 12,000 year cycle, we were still down in Bhuloka. Nothing's changed. It's only now that we're finally, for the first time, shifting upward. So that's why this is such a critical time. We've been going through hell here, and now we're finally getting there, and we're not quite there yet. And so that's why this is so important. I also have this helix here to show it's not really like the ages don't go like this. They actually go in a spiral, and we're the larger cycle beyond this one is actually an upgoing cycle. We're like in the 7th Manvantara of 14 Manvantaras of the entire big cycle and stuff. So, so you have to understand that it's like the next Kali Yuga, the next dark age, won't be as bad as the one we just went through, in like 20,000 years from now or so. So now this is something I'm really grateful that some of the speakers have already talked about Gobekli Tepe. I'm very grateful for that. And we all love Graham Hancock. And he's the kind of person that, because he gets a lot of scholars who criticize him for, opening up this whole world that we're so grateful to him for, he really, whatever he writes, he really does it in every detail possible so that nobody can say, he didn't do this or he didn't do that, So the thing is, right here, he mentions Paul Burley's work, and he examines it from every aspect possible, spending pages and pages on his book, Magicians of the Gods. And he talks about Pillar 43 of Gobekli Tepe, depicting the same 80-year time frame as the Mayans. And so the reliefs, Pillar 43, 9,600 BCE, use symbolic language to depict the December solstice sun at the southern gate of the Milky Way between Sagittarius and Scorpio. This is a one-time moment of the precession cycle between 1960 and 2040 of our time. But wow, that's the same time period that the Mayans focus on. So that's kind of interesting. And why would Gobekli Tepe actually have a pillar that points to our time? What's so important about our time? And then we look at, we find out Gobekli Tepe was buried on purpose by its builders, or well, later by its civilization. Why did they bury it? And you can only understand it by looking at the locas, at this shift that's coming. Because what happens is that, well, I've already shown that this is the first time we're going upward here. since like 20,000 years ago. And to me, what's interesting is that, of course, Gobekli Tepe, it was buried because it's trying to protect whatever advanced technology it had in those higher ages. And we don't know exactly what that was. We know that there's space travel and time travel. There's also, going into higher states of consciousness. We don't know because you've had all these multiple circles, in Gobekli Tepe. So one of them would have been enough to just be whatever people think on a normal scale of what was happening. So evidently something very interesting was happening. Maybe the different circles, because they have that alignment with the geomagnetic forces of the Earth, they have the ability to, each different circle maybe transferred you to a different planet somewhere else. I don't know, I'm just, but the point is that we won't really know until we change our vibration. I mean, they knew that when they buried it, that then they pointed that pillar to our time period, knowing that our time was coming when the shift would take place. And at that time, entering into the higher vibration of this next age, we would be able to understand and use Gobekli Tepe in the way it was meant to be used. Because in this gross vibration that we're still in, we can measure things with the flux magnetometer and find out, yeah, it really does correspond, with what we expect of the aligning, the positive energy flowing in a circle and whatever it's doing. But it's not able to do all it's meant to do while we're stuck in this lower vibration. So once we shift, then things will happen. And I just had to throw this in. It's one of my favorites. We talked about all this, right? So as we know, it goes deeper than that, right? So then, keeping all this in mind, the same time that this coming shift from this one, from Loka to Loka, the Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield. I don't know how many of you have read that. Quite a few, right? Yeah, it's really popular. He's talking about all these things about people disappearing into this next, going through the shift into the next world. And then you talk about people in Christian world, about the rapture and the Left Behind series. So we're all expecting something to happen. The Hopi Indians also predict we're entering a new world, a new dimension. So everybody has this feeling something's about to happen, even though they may not know any of this. And so in Sri Sukseshwar, as I said, whenever the majority of the people in a solar system accept that new vibration, then that shift takes place. So we're part of that responsibility to make that shift happen. And and also, before we were all into law and morality and all that in the lower age, because we didn't know how to behave. It's like kids in kindergarten, they have to have a lot of rules. But once you because you're stuck in the physical body, but once now we're feeling that new energy coming in, that we're able to come back to what we call cosmic maintenance, where you start to interact, like help your plants grow with the energy and heal yourself with the energy. All this stuff is coming back, and it'll be way easier once the shift happens. So, more and more people are meditating and making the effort to go within. And I think, in fact, we just talked about it last night at Gaia House, the speakers were talking about it, and it doesn't really have to be 51% of the people, believing. It's like only a few people, a smaller amount of people, the energy is so great much greater than negative energy, that you don't need as many people to create the shift. So that's one of the good things. So once this shift, once we tune into this new vibration and we're manifesting that new vibration, then what happens is that the violent souls, lower consciousness souls, suddenly will not be able to be reborn on our planet anymore because they don't match that vibration. They have to go to another Kali Yuga, Dark Age planet to be born. They can't come here. Can you imagine the change in the world when that happens? I mean, it's going to be phenomenal. So, so things are going to be very different, but right now we're suffering, right? So, so I just wanted to mention also the reality of these other vibrational spheres, like, because we don't know much about it. It's very kind of confusing, like the Hopi talk about another dimension and what do they mean. And so one of the things that kind of clarified it to me is when people pass on and go to the other side, our loved ones, how many of you have been contacted by your loved ones from the other side? Yeah, look at that. Look around. Look how many people have their hands up. It's over half the people here. And so I just want to mention that something that it changed my idea of death forever when my best friend died when I was in college. He had been a monk in SRF, Self-Realization Fellowship, for a few years, and we knew each other before in high school. And then one night, sleeping, and all of a sudden, there's my friend Bruce, and he's sitting on a bench, the candlestick on either side of him, and he's looking at me, and he's talking to me telepathically, and he says, I've come to say goodbye to you, that I'm in this wonderful place now, and I want you, to know that, I'm gone, but we'll see each other again someday. And I think, oh my gosh, Bruce just told me that he died. And then this was around 2 a.m. Then 7 a.m., a mutual friend calls me that Bruce was killed in a car accident in Mexico that night. And because he came to me first, before anyone else, it forever changed my idea, even though theoretically I knew there is no death. But for him to actually come to me and tell me that he's gone, just, now when someone passes on, it's like they're on vacation somewhere and I'll see them again. I know I will, But the other thing is, couple of years later, when I was rereading Autobiography of a Yogi, when Sri Yukteswara passes, to the other side, Yogananda is on a train going to Puri to see Sri Yukteswara if he can make it in time, and there Sri Yukteswara appeared to him in a vision, and he has a candlestick on either side of him. I thought, whoa, just like what I saw with my friend Bruce. And I actually spoke with Charlotte, the one who's introducing us all so wonderfully, because she's into symbolism. And we talked about it, and she says, well, those candlesticks are really like portals, looking into this other side, into this other vibrational sphere. And so when you think about it, when we have this ability to contact loved ones on the other side, they're actually in the lower astral or higher astral, so they're in Svarloka or Maharloka. And it's not like they're in a galaxy far, far away. No, they're right here. They can appear to us. They're just on a different vibrational level. So it's just, so it gives you some idea that there are these different vibrations, and we just have to tune into them. And what's also interesting is, let's see, I didn't get, well, I'll talk a little about UFOs later, because they're actually in this next Bhuvar Loka. They're at home there, and they have the technology to shift down to our level and to see us, because they're starting to check up on us because we're about to rejoin them. Because we were there before in the higher ages, and now we're kind of like a off-limits planet, you know. And later on, you know, we'll be back, you know, with all of them. And so I wanted to also mention here this new way of contacting those who've gone to these other spheres of creation, so to say, those who've passed on, and to actually tune ourselves to where we were before we were born on the other side, on this other vibrational sphere. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls, incredible book. And then Dolores Cannon had done so much work on this. And what's interesting is because she ended up having, I mean, all these people telling her, well, you know, I'm from this planet or from other places, but I've decided to come here to help with the shift, to help the energy, to bring the energy up, to bring us back up. And so I was kind of interested in all that. And then Jeroen de Witt, he couldn't make it today. He was there last year at CPAK. He actually, you know, we talk about past life regression. This one mother, her son, as a child, was telling them, you know, I was a famous baseball player, you know, before. And then finally they figured out, he said, yeah, it was in New York, the Yankees, and all this stuff, and more detail would come out. And then they showed him pictures of the team at that time, and he pointed right at Lou Gehrig, and he said, you were my mother in that life. And so she, you know, they had never heard about reincarnation, you know, so they started reading up on it and checking on it because of their son. And then she found Jeroen, who's fantastic. He's done thousands of regressions. And so it turned out that when he regressed her, she actually was able to remember the names of the people she lived with after Lou Gehrig disease. You know, Lou Gehrig died, and she had no family, so she stayed with this one really wonderful family, and she gave them all her jewelry and stuff. And in the regression, she mentioned the names of the people and where they lived. So they actually looked it up, and they found the people back east and actually went to visit them. And they actually still had the jewelry that she had given them. I mean, you know, just amazing. They're planning to make a movie of it. So Jeroen, we're actually working with him and with Diana and Donna Adair. Could you stand up? You know, you have your table outside, but they're also trained. They were also trained by Dolores Cannon with all this amazing information, and they've actually written a number of books. I just put these here of all the regressions they've done of people who have been in the golden age. They actually put all that together into 3 novels that kind of pulls out all this kind of information. And I just can't help myself, you know. So there's your proof right there. So now I don't have, in my previous talk last year, I talk about my regression under Jeroen, where I found out that I had been like a samurai in a past life, and got run through with a sword at the end of my life. And when he took me there, he says, what happened at the end of the life? I yell out in pain. And that's when I really believe this is no joke, this is real, you know. And then the interesting thing is, in high school, in this lifetime, I took kendo, Japanese sword fighting. You know, that's kind of a direct reflection of a previous life. But then I was also in on another life on a different planet, taking measurements to see if that planet was good for establishing human life. And then when I went when the spaceship came to pick me up, my colleagues, and I realized we were all beings of light. So the thing is, you're not always born on planet Earth. You can be born on other planets as well. And so there's really no aliens. We're all kind of in this together, you know. And so she found out that all these people have come, you know, to help with the shift. So she said, now there are tens of thousands of these new souls all over the world, and the higher beings have said they don't have to worry about us destroying the earth. They say we have finally tipped the balance. We're going to be able to save the world. So that's really positive. And a lot of people have had, you know, a hard time here that have come from other places to help. And so, like saying, I heard the call, Earth is in trouble. Who wants to go and help? Even the ones who are ETs, extraterrestrials, have said the same thing. And when they come into the body, like born here, you know, their memories are erased. I asked, wouldn't it be easier if you remember why you've come? They said, it wouldn't be a test if you knew the answers. And so she actually, because of all the regressions that she went through, thousands of regressions since the 1980s or so, she found out there are really 3 waves of volunteers that have come to Earth, born on Earth to help with the shift, whether it's just higher souls from previous lifetimes here or other places, doesn't matter. But they have 2 purposes: to change the energy of the Earth, to avoid catastrophe, to help raise the energy of the people so they can ascend with the Earth to the next sphere. So it's like they don't have to do anything, you just have to be. Just by walking through a crowded mall, a grocery store, their energy affects everyone, because it's all vibration. In fact, I've started doing that myself. If I'm even like at the mall, I'll be chanting, you know, and try to be positive, because that radiates outward. You know, there's people like some of the monastics I've heard, their aura goes, you know, for, I mean, huge outwardly. But even regular people, your aura, if there's someone that you don't get along with, they can be like, what, 30 feet away or so, and there's an immediate, you know, auric interaction. But this is, I think this is really beautiful here, Dolores Cannon. My books have now been translated into over 20 languages. Mail comes from all over the world, and it's always the same. They're so grateful for the information. They thought they were the only ones in the world who had these feelings of not wanting to be here, of not understanding the violence in the world, of wanting to go home, of seriously entertaining thoughts of suicide in order to get out. It has helped them tremendously to know they're not crazy, that they are not alone, that they are one of the many who volunteered to come and help the Earth through its crisis mode. They just were not prepared for the repercussions on their gentle souls. So I'm sure a lot of you can identify with that. So with what's coming next, I just want to break for a commercial. This Tianxi has helped me, you know, this supplement has helped me more than anything. I've taken it for over 10 years. It gives me energy, it relieves stress, it helps me meditate more deeply. It's really amazing. And so I've actually, we have a whole bunch of packs that if you, they're in the back, okay. So make sure, pick some of those packs up. If everybody takes one, and later on there's some left, take a second one. But try it like on an empty stomach in the morning, and you'll see. And also meditate after an hour or so and see, you know, you'll notice a difference. It's wonderful. And Roger Drummer unfortunately passed away just in this last summer, but he was also a Kriyaban. He was initiated in Kriya Yoga, and on the bottom of the package, it says Om Pyom, and I realized, Om Paramahansa Yogananda Om, and so I called him up and I said, "Is that what it means?" "Yep, that's what it means." So anyway, that was really nice. So you remember to pick up a pack and try it, I don't know how we're doing.
We've got about 10 minutes.
Oh, 10 minutes, okay. So, Diana and Donna sent me this picture they took of a UFO while they were driving. And you can see it up here. And so when I view in more closely, you know, I was saying how the UFOs can shift from one level to another. And remember how we talked about portals between two things like the candlesticks and you're looking at the other world? It almost looks like they're coming through a portal here, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know, but that's kind of came to my mind. It's kind of interesting. So, as I've already mentioned, you know, how they're really checking on us, and we'll again be part of what I would say a galactic federation of souls. You know, we're all the same. We may look differently in many ways, but you know, it's all going to happen once the shift takes place. And yeah, so this is I just can't help myself, you know. Yeah. So since Joseph Selby was so nice to talk about Kriya Yoga already, I'll kind of move on from there. Like what's really interesting in the Silver and Golden Age, which would really be equivalent to Svar and Mahar Loka, those spheres of vibration. What's neat is like we won't, in those levels of going within, we won't need like billion-dollar accelerators like CERN or Fermilab. We'll be able to see the atoms with inner vision. And that's already happened, like the Theosophists, Charles Leadbeater, and Inner Vision, he published in the Theosophist in 1908 about nuclear isotopes. No one had ever heard of that, but he described them. And then 6 years later, a British physicist, Frederick Soddy, introduced the concept and won the Nobel Prize for it. But he had already described by inner vision, he could see inside the atom. And in fact, some of the other ones, there's another one that's also gone and able to see inside the proton and the neutron, and he could actually see the quarks inside and what the quarks are made of. And so, you know, that's the kind of thing where you don't need billion-dollar accelerators. You know, once you get to the higher ages, you have the ability to understand the cosmos as it's supposed to be, you know. And this kind of understanding is very beyond the mind, you know. And someone once asked Paramahansa Yogananda, can you understand the holy science? He says, only when I go into the same state of ecstasy, of samadhi that Sri Yukteswar was in. And I had an experience a little bit like that myself once, where there were these saints in my dream, and they explained telepathically to me that this woman saint is going to reveal to me, she's going to touch me and reveal to me how God created the universe. And so she touched me, and the next moment, boom, it was all there. It was unbelievable. And it's not like, you know, you're going to learn another language and, you know, you study and study. After a year, you're kind of conversant. No, this was instant. From one moment to the next, I had it all. I had everything. It was unbelievable. And so I kind of woke up with a smile on my face in the morning, and then I realized, where is it? It's gone. And I realized I'm back inside of my limited mind, and you can't comprehend these things in the normal state of consciousness, you know. And so what we're doing here, like with Kriya Yoga and meditation, all that, internally we're learning to go within and get to these higher levels, and things that we can't really comprehend here. And even though I'm, you know, Sri Yukteswar is trying to explain these things in the holy science, the things are so much deeper than we can understand on this level, but he's giving us pointers, so to say. And it's one also in the Silver Age, Savitri Simpson here at Ananda wrote this wonderful book, Through Many Lives, A Tale of Time Travel Through the Yugas. And it is, like describing the Silver Age, what it would be like and what the people do with time travel, their abilities. And so it's like in our coming age that we're entering is where we conquer space, but in the Silver Age we conquer time. And I love this part from the Ramayana, the Indian scripture, where Rama needs help for a battle, and this is on the deeper levels with words of power. And it says Vishvamitra taught him, his guru, taught him the mantras to summon the occult weapons. When Rama spoke the secret mantras, the words of power, the lords of the astras appeared before him. They were neither in this world nor yet in the next. They stood between realms, their bodies of pristine light. The eyes of some were turquoise flames, others had locks of green tongues of fire. Rama said to them, "Dwell in my mind until I have need of you." They melted into him and he glowed more than ever. So this is the kind of inner technology that you see in the Silver Age. It's very different from what we know. And I always wonder, like Rama, Lord Rama, his bodyguards, what kind of training they went through, when you read this, So I've been into martial arts most of my life, so it's interesting, And so we already talked about Göbekli Tepe, and now, as I mentioned, time travel, is mentioned in these fairy circles, these ring portals. So we don't know, but and some of you have seen the Outlander TV series, it's all about that. And but this magnetic alignment, is using the magnetic fields of the Earth, and so just want to mention that. So in the Silver Age too, people are trying to, it's a different religion than what we have to do. We're learning to go within, meditate, to imitate what life will be like in this new Yuga, in this new age. But in the Silver Age, the people are going to, they're so into wizardry and powers and inner technology that they're not spending enough time just to be with God, be in the presence. And so their religion is to do that, to go, to just be and not be so much into technique and forgetting the goal, so to say. And so in the 60s, a lot of the hippies kind of liked those scriptures, where you don't have to do anything, just be. But hey, you first have to be able to go into astral samadhi, into ecstasy at will. Yeah, then it makes sense, but not when you achieve nothing yet and you want to just be, nothing's going to happen. So now in Satya Yuga, I want to mention that in, let me see, in Satya Yuga, what happens is you go upward to the last transition, and I don't know if I have a picture of that. Let's see. I can show it here. When we're finally, we're right here, but once we get up into here, there comes a 400-year transition. But where are you going to go? You can't, there's no higher Yuga, right? And so if you don't accomplish anything, then you start going back down in a downgoing golden age. And so what's interesting is that Sri Yukteswar told Yogananda when he passed on that he was acting as a savior, as a teacher in Hiranyaloka, which is a planet in what's actually Maharloka, in that sphere of the golden age. And so he would be helping those souls in that transitional period to go to Jana Loka, which is the next sphere of creation. And it requires nirvikalpa samadhi, this highest ecstasy, even to get to Hiranya Loka. But you think, oh, you're done with nirvikalpa samadhi? No, it's kind of, to me, it's like getting your black belt in martial arts. And I know a lot of people who quit because they've done it, they're there. And the same way here, like a lot of souls will think, okay, I'm in astral samadhi, I don't need to do anything else now, but then you're going to start to fall back down because you have not gone beyond the yugas. You're still in this level. And what's interesting is that Sri Yukteswar, when we talk about, paradise, the golden age, wow, we get to that, that's it. But what does Sri Yukteswar say? He says that this level, here, I'll show you, I'll go back. Here we go. When you're at, where is it? Here, the golden age in Maharloka, you're in the heart chakra, but he says this is not, to him it's not paradise. He says this is the, this is where the Maya, where delusion begins in this age, This is actually, to him, negative because this is where all this cycle of Maya, of creation, of delusion begins. And so what you want to do is you want to get up here to these higher levels. And he calls Maharloka, the golden age, he calls it the middle ground. This is, you're halfway, You think you're done here. No, you're not. You have to go further. Otherwise, you're back in the cycle again. And you don't want that. You want to transcend. And what's interesting to me is that when we talk about the fourth Kriya, which you usually don't talk about, but the fourth the fourth Kriya is really dealing with these higher chakras, these higher levels. And initially, it helps induce astral samadhi, astral ecstasy. But it also then shoots the energy up into the spiritual eye and also opens up like these other chakras, these higher chakras up here. And so the fourth Kriya is really a technique that we've been given that is actually for souls in Satya Yuga to go beyond, because we can do this at any age, no matter what age we're in. This is how we transcend and make it, finally where we no longer have to worry. He calls Jana Loka the realm of the sons of God, and then all this beyond we can't even imagine. But so remember, this is we're in this critical time right now, why the Mayan calendar ends now and why Göbekli Tepe is looking to our time for our coming shift. So we need to uplift our consciousness. And so we're about to come out of that radio static between the two stations, radio stations, right? And when the shift happens, the Kali Yuga, the Dark Age vibrations will be gone. We'll be in a totally new sphere of vibration, and the low vibration souls will no longer be able to be born here. So welcome to a brave new world, right? So that's the exciting thing, to be positive. Things are going to happen. We might be going through tough times right now, but it's going to be over soon. There's nothing that can stop this. This is too powerful. And so we talked a little bit about raising our vibrations with words of power. And even like in Abraham in Sodom and Gomorrah, he asked, can you save this, asked God, can you save the city? And he kind of says, well, you save it if there's 20 righteous people in the city. And God says, well, I won't destroy it, if there's 20. And he argues him down, to how far he can go down. He finally got down to 10, and God said, no, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. So it's righteous people with higher consciousness have tremendous power, even for, I don't know how big Sodom and Gomorrah was, but 10 people was enough to keep it from being destroyed. So just think of how powerful you are in your devotion and your meditation, and your uplifting consciousness, like what we have here at CPAK, what we have here at Ananda. You're so blessed, And so I want to end. I had mentioned this last time, but I'll repeat it last year. I had gone to one of the brothers at SRF, one of the monks, to ask him about what do I do in large crowds, how do I keep my vibration up, And so he said, well, don't you know about the Om Tat Sat? And no, and so then I'm in his office, and he starts to demonstrate the Om Tat Sat. And so we're sitting there, and he's going, Om Tat Sat. And he keeps going, and I felt this vibration building inside the room. It keeps building and building, till finally I knew that the room was literally going to explode. I've never experienced anything like this. I could never forget it. And at that very moment, he stopped, because he knew that was the limit. And that's what we mean by words of power. And the Om Tat Sat are the 3 highest vibrations in and beyond the universe. They reflect Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so we want to raise the vibration of the earth. And one of the ways we can do it right now here is by chanting Om Tat Sat. Let's do that together. So let's see. Okay, just raise your arms up. And just feel the energy going with all your love all around the world. Om Tat Sat. 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 Thank you. We're entering it.